And we are rolling. My name is Jason Fladlien. I'm Rapid Crush Inc., one half of it, co-founder on behalf of Wilson Matos, our wonderful CEO, Dolan White, and everyone we call staff and family or whatever we like to refer to them that make up the wonderful company of Rapid Crush. We welcome you to this training here today on how to create million-dollar webinars. Now, here's my agenda for the day, just so we're very clear with expectations right up front. In our small amount of time together, my goal is to make a big impact in your life in the following ways. First, confidence. Create confidence where there was once uncertainty. Second, clarity. We want to have clarity dissipate the confusion that once resided in your mind. And if we're really lucky, I'm going to unlock within you the true potential that you have to make your dent in the universe, because you have infinite potential within you, and we're going to see if we can unleash some of that. Yet, if nothing else, I'm here to make you money. Lots and lots of it. That's what I'm going to do for you. Here's what I need you to do for me. Implementation. Listen, nothing pains me more than giving you a wonderful solution to your problem, yet running into you several years later and see that you're still clinging hopelessly to your problem. I need implementation mindset today. I want you to watch this and say, oh, I can use that here, or ooh, I think I can start with this over there. Think in terms of results and actions, not just an intellect. Mentor of mine and somebody I've actually done millions of dollars with webinars, Bob Proctor, said this, and I think it's so genius. Thoughts become things. If you see it in your mind, you will hold it in your hand. So as we go through the training today, anytime I show you something that excites you, I want you to make a commitment that you will put it into action the first chance that you can. Do we have a deal? If so, go ahead, locate that chat box, type in your response there, say yes. If you can't find a chat box, just say yes out loud. I don't care if anybody else can hear you or not, but let's get down to business, okay? Is that okay? Well, here's how today came to be, part one. Once upon a time, I joined this group called Genius Network, created by Joe Polish. I paid $25,000 to be a part of it, and a lot of high-level, a lot of thought leaders, a lot of intelligent, really solid business people and innovators are part of this group. And I actually joined in 2014. In the first event I went to, I showed up. It was March 27th to March 28th, and I applied to do these things called 10-minute talks that occur at Genius Network. And this is the email from his assistant, Eunice, here, saying, here's what you do, here's how you got to set up for this. And then I submitted it. They say, okay, you could come and talk. And I went there, and I shared amongst this group of thought leaders and really powerful individuals how we utilized webinars to generate the biggest affiliate promotion results of all time in internet marketing history. So this was a promotion that we ran that we generated $9.89 million in sales in a 7-day period. It actually exceeded that when the final tally was over $10 million. And so I had broken down, I said, these are the techniques that we utilize. This is how we conceptualize the offer. This is how we utilize webinars to make these amount of sales. And the result of this 10-minute talk was I had a lot of these people coming up to me that were members of Genius Network, and they wanted my advice on how to do webinars. And I'm a pretty open guy, especially back then. I was like, sure, I love to talk about this. I love to teach this. I learn by teaching it. So yeah, so I hopped on the phone with some different people that were part of Genius Network and just kind of informally, just kind of naturally started explaining to them, well, maybe you should try this or maybe you should do that. And so one of the people that I talked to, a guy named Garrett Gunderson, I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a New York Times bestseller, wrote a great book several years ago in the financial space on killing sacred cows. And Garrett recently sent an email out to a very famous individual. I can't reveal who they are, but you would probably know them if I mentioned their name. And this was the introduction that he gave me. He said, Jason Fladlien is the best in the world at webinars. He's the only person that doesn't work for our firm directly that we've promoted in the last 3 years, and he absolutely crushed it. He is brilliant. You should know him. And my friend John Carter, who teaches investing, this is what he said. He said, as a result of us informally talking webinar strategy, we got to know each other. He says, last year I was traveling with my family in Italy. I had a pass on a last-minute JV opportunity. Jason hit me up on Skype, asked if he could do the webinar for me since I would have to pass. I thought, why not? When I got back from Italy, we had $1.5 million in sales and a Tesla in the driveway. So I said, there's something to this. Imagine what kind of impact I could have if I actually systemize this, not just informally or just not onesie-twosie. Says, here's an idea, here's a tactic, here's a strategy. What if we took the whole essence of what I did and put it into a training. And that's actually what I did in October of 2017. We called this Genius Webinars. I partnered up with Joe Polish. I said, let me speak to your audience. Each person in the audience paid $4,995. That's not a made-up value. Literally every single person that you see in that picture paid that to be there. And for 2 days, for some solid, very in-depth training sessions, we went through the process from start to finish of how I construct and utilize webinars to make money. And some of those people, like John Bowen, immediately saw results, like very quickly. So for him, this is a $200,000 result on something he had never done before. He'd only sold services. He'd never sold products. And he is also in the financial space. Nick is in the business coaching space, and he says, listen, Jason, I used your technique immediately on a live event, and we closed better than we have in the 3 previous years. We went from a 15% conversion to a 22% conversion. Guys in the investing space, and he did 17% on his first webinar, and then on the follow-up tripled the sales based upon the framework that I showed him. John Benson, who's in the video sales letter space and the email marketing space, he utilized the techniques that I'm about to show you, did a 20% conversion, mostly cold traffic, on a $997 product with a $97 a month continuity. And this is what we went through for 2 days. This was the synthesis of my exact system, made in puzzle format, step by step. That's the first way that this webinar between you and I came to be today. Here's the second way that it came to be. I was in 100K. This is a group that Joe created. I was one of the first members in it. I paid $100,000 to be part of it, and I showed up in the spirit of value and gratitude. I said, Joe, is there anything I can do to help you with the very first 100K group session ever held? And he said, sure, why don't you come, why don't you talk about webinars? So in that presentation, I broke down a webinar campaign that I'd done just the week before that only had 574 people on, but of those, 154 people said yes to a $12,000 per year software as a service program, and we actually were only attempting to sell 100 spots. Orders rushed in so fast, by the time we took it offline, we had oversold it by 54 spots. And we're definitely, when we say this is going to be the end of it, it's going to be the end of it, but sometimes we can't get there quick enough. We underestimated the power, so I broke that down and explained the methodology of how we did that. And would you like to know the results specifically of that webinar campaign? Well, we're going to break that down also on this webinar. Specifically on this webinar, here's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to break down for you the detailed framework I've used over the last 8 years that has resulted in $100 million in webinar sales. I'm also going to show you how in your introduction you can create more buyer demand than most people do during the entirety of their webinar. You'll also find out about a content formula that I'll teach you on this very webinar that is so useful you'll utilize it in every teaching moment that you find yourself in. We're going to break down this major mistake that's probably robbing you blind. 9 out of 10 webinar presenters make this very mistake here. I'm going to show you how to fix it very simply. It's a trick you play on yourself, and you'll enjoy that as well. I'm going to give you for the close, because a lot of people get scared about selling and closing on webinars. I'm going to show you just a fill-in-the-blank formula. So you don't have to be creative. You don't have to think about it. Just follow this step by step. It's like baking a cake. And then we'll also break down a case study on a webinar I recently did that not just put that in there, but we also then followed up and had $2.6 million in billable revenue, and we're going to break down some of the techniques that made that work here today as well. Now, before we dive in, I have a quick question for you. Why do webinars work so well? What about them makes them so tremendously effective? What about them makes them so undeniable and so essential to business done online these days? Well, here's why. They're the second most powerful medium for education, only surpassed by in-person, nose-to-nose, toes-to-toes interaction. But the beauty of this is you don't have to leave your room. I didn't leave my house. I did the 50-foot commute, walked upstairs, kissed my wife, said I'm going to go hop on this webinar, boom, done, right? Here's an even more important reason why webinars work so well. They cater to the 20% of the market that represents 80% of the buying power. Every single market, this is a mathematical fact, this is the 80-20 rule, if you've ever heard of that, the law of the vital few, whatever you want to call it, right? Every single market has a small amount of the market segment that spends a majority of the money in that market. And these are the people that are interested in getting on webinars, going deep into the education, they take it seriously, and they're serious about the solutions that are available to them to consider. And here's something that I've used in my business that has served me well, and I'll pass it on to you here, is the more you serve, the more you can sell. People don't mind if you're selling them as long as you're also serving them. And the webinar is a great method for serving because we create value first. We create results first with these webinars, at least if you follow my framework. And then we ask, do you want to go further? And practically speaking, webinars are the best way I've found to help your audience take action. And that's what gets results. As Tony Robbins said here, the path to success is to take massive, determined action. I've got to know Tony personally based on some of the powerful stuff I've been able to do with webinars, and I think webinars are the key to really making the world a better place. And if you make your market a better place, you deserve to get wealthy, don't you? Now here's my challenge. As we go through this training today, I have to constantly remind myself that I spent thousands of hours doing webinars. I spent tens of thousands of hours creating those webinars. I spent countless thousand hours thinking about webinars, sleeping and dreaming about webinars. How do I distill 20,000 plus hours and the total sum of my knowledge into something that you can immediately put into action and have a bottom line impact the first time that you use it? Well, here's how. We're just going to break down the formula, make it systematic, and then we remove any uncertainty or any doubt. It's kind of one of those things. Follow the formula, get the result, right? Would you like to start with step one? Would you like to look at and explore the ins and outs of each of these steps as we go through here? Of course. Let's start with the introduction. The introduction is the first phase of your webinar. And let me ask you this. Who here has attended a webinar before this one? I'm going to make an assumption, not a very bold one, mind you, that this is not the first webinar you've ever been on. You've probably been on more than one. Some of you have probably been on many, many webinars. I've been on many webinars as an attendee before I ever did my first webinar. And here's a follow-up question for you. Do most webinar introductions leave a lot to be desired? Yeah, they start painful and then they get worse as they go on, don't they? Here's the challenge with the introduction. You only have one chance to make a first impression. You have 5 minutes. You can either dazzle or dull, inspire or annoy, make money or cost you money. 5 minutes. Just like Mama always said, you only get one chance to make a first impression. Now here's what an ideal introduction accomplishes. It seizes the attention of the audience. It makes distraction all but impossible. It communicates that something special is about to happen that will once and for all solve a problem that's afflicting your audience dearly. And it holds within it that the future is indeed bright and you're going to help them realize and make that future a reality. That's what an ideal introduction does. Unfortunately, most introductions in webinars don't accomplish that, so therefore they don't need and nor do they deserve to make the money. You deserve it instead. When it comes to doing an introduction, here are the things I accomplish or aim to accomplish in every single introduction for every single sales webinar I've ever created that's ever made any money. They accomplish the following, and if you don't have pen or pencil handy, take it out right now because we are going to break down very specific things that you can utilize. Here are the things that I look to do in my introduction, every single one of them, no matter what I'm selling, no matter what industry it's selling to, no matter consumer, business to business, service, software, information product, coaching program, you name it, this is it. Authority, commitment, objections, hope, intrigue. Accomplish these 5 things in your first 5 minutes and you will not have to do anything else in your webinar and you can easily double or triple your results. Okay? So of these 5, authority is the most important. This is the one you want to make sure you nail above and beyond anything else. Now you said, Jason, if you made a study of authority, what would that look like? I will tell you. There are only a few components to authority. Results, positioning, celebrity, testimonial. So when I say I'm going to accomplish authority in my introduction, I'm going to utilize results in some way, I'm going to utilize positioning in some way, I'm going to utilize celebrity in some way, and I'm going to utilize testimonial in some way. Now this is not theoretical, because I did this very thing in this introduction to this very webinar. How did I achieve this? And it's funny because it's very simple actually once you see it. I like to show and tell. And this is one of the reasons why I like webinars so much, and this is one of the reasons you need to adapt them in your business if you have any hope of thriving in the future. So for example, what's this? This is a result, personal results. It's one way to establish authority. And what are these elements? These are positioning. things that I pay $25,000 for and $100,000 for. And so I position myself in a very authoritative standpoint. Celebrity, right? Being next to people like a Tony Robbins or a Bob Proctor, and then showcasing these results of people like John, Nick, Guy, and the other John. Those are testimonials. And I did those seamlessly to help establish authority, and it's just a checklist, though. People think authority is some vague concept. No, it's these 4 things, and if I accomplish and utilize at least 1, hopefully 2, ideally 3, we're really cooking if we do all 4 of the components of authority, boom, we're well on our way to a killer webinar. Oh, and I also did every other component in the introduction. And so I created commitment in the introduction. I said, I need you to commit to me to implement what I'm going to show you today. I handled objections in advance. My objection of, I'm up here, you're over here, how do we connect together? That's one of the objections I handled. There were others, right? Fostered hope for the future. This was one of the very first slides that I showed you here today. And I created mystery and intrigue. Would you like to know how we did this? Here's what's coming up on the webinar, et cetera, et cetera. This is a very effective strategy for creating a very committed individual to your introduction, set the tone correctly, make that first impression, show, and get them in a state where they can receive the value you're going to give. Yet it's systematic. I am fully confident you could give me anybody off the streets with the smallest amount of desire to get wealthy. We could put them in front of this, give them some technique, and they could go out there and do it just as good as pretty much anybody. Because it's a system that I've developed over the last 8 years. The ideal introduction accomplishes the following. It sucks each attendee in, puts them immediately into a buying mood in minutes. Communicates something special is about to happen, an exciting new ride attendees are about to go on, where the destination is more happiness and less suffering, where the future is bright and the potential is unlimited. Question to you, if you did this and nothing else, do you think it would dramatically improve your webinar effectiveness? Do you think it would help? Do you think it could make the difference between a webinar that just doesn't do anything and one that puts you on a 6- or 7-figure path? Tougher question. Do you think your audience deserves it? And every moment that you deny it to them is a moment you're actively participating in their despair. I know how to ask the strong questions because this is really important stuff. I am tired of seeing these lackluster webinars out there, and they're making money, by the way, and they shouldn't be, though, but they do because webinars are effective. And you're sitting here with something that you could offer just by being here, just by putting the time in. I know you're more likely to do it right, especially following the system, and you're not doing that. That's the greatest injustice on this planet, is to have the ability to help somebody and choose not to, especially when there are a lot of rewards. So you say, Jason, I'm in. Are you in? I hope you're in. If you're in, start here with your webinar. Your introduction looks like this. How am I going to achieve authority status? I've given you some tips. How am I going to create commitment in the first few minutes? What is the key objection or objections I'm going to have to address to make the sale later on, and let's bring them up front? How are we going to make people hopeful that the future is going to be better? Because a lot of people that have problems and challenges that are looking to solve those, it's trouble for them to even get up in the morning. And how are they going to say yes to an offer that you're going to make if they don't think the future is going to be better? So how are we going to foster that hope for the future? And how are we going to create mystery and intrigue to make sure that they stay on the line and they stay paying attention? This is where you start. You follow this, you immediately start to put a system process where there once wasn't one, and you're off to the races. Now, here's some extra credit for you. You can't use this magic trick every time. But when you have something super duper special, you can break this out when it matters most. So the reality of webinars is the success begins even before the first word is spoken or the first slide is shown. So remember when I showed you this earlier? And I said, listen, you know, we did this webinar. First time we did it, we grossed like $452,000 in just 2 hours, billables of over $1 million from a simple webinar with just a few people on it. Well, there was a trick. The trick is this. When we asked people to join us on the webinar, we put an extra step in place. We made them sign an electronic non-disclosure agreement before they were even allowed to show up. Now, this isn't something you can use every single time. It's something you should only do 1 or 2 times a year if you have a super powerful, super effective thing that you've already taken out there on webinar and you know it's effective, okay? Here's my question to you. Do you think this increases the number of people who show up to your webinars? Yeah, because you can't sell somebody that ain't there, right? Do you also think it makes them more committed from the get-go to take what you're saying serious? Yeah, naturally. And will this lead to more sales, if nothing else? It will, absolutely. We call this persuasion. The great Robert Cialdini, who I had the pleasure of meeting earlier this year, wrote the greatest book, I believe, in the 21st century on influence and persuasion, and this is exactly it in practice here. What we do is get them to commit ahead of time. So when the time is right, when you understand this framework here, and you have something powerful, consider adding in something addition to that to get them in the state of mind before you even start the introduction. But we've covered the introduction already, so what's next? Content, transition, close. These are the only other 3 elements you have to be concerned about when it comes to creating webinars that make you a lot of money. So let's talk about content. Let's break that down. Is it possible to give the best, most informative education and get 0 people to buy from you on your webinar? Is it possible that you could truly go out there and show them the best, most effective tactics and strategy related to whatever you have and get $0 and 0 cents as a result of that from your webinar? And the answer is yes, I've done it before. The first few years I started doing webinars, that was pretty much the standard operating procedure. Go out there and bare your soul to your audience. Have them tell you they love you for it, and look at that bank account and not see it move. Okay? Now on the flip side, is it possible to give little to no valuable information at all on a webinar and close the lights out? Yeah. Unfortunately, it is. I wish the world didn't work like this, but this is reality. You can give no value and make a lot of money, or you can give a tremendous amount of education and make 0 money. We even have a term for this. It's called a pitch fest. Now here's the breakthrough. The question you have to ask yourself, this is what really changed the tables for me, rose me from failure to success, just like that. I said, what would it take to give the most valuable possible to my audience, the most value, so that person would leave the webinar better off than they were before they first showed up? And if, and only if, it makes sense to them to show how investing in your offer would provide even more value than what they're already experiencing. So essentially it's this. You make them better, and then you show them that it can get even better still if they say yes to your offer at the end. That's the breakthrough. That's where the lens of content and education come from, because every webinar has 2 sales. Sale number 1 is the product. You can't have people hate from you and buy from you. Happens all the time. No like and trust? No. People can hate you and buy from you. You can deceive, trick, and coerce somebody to give you money, and some people, that's the game that they play. I don't advise you to do it, but that's the way it is. And if you follow this process of, tricking and coercing somebody, or, being antagonistic, you can win in the short term, but you will lose in the long term if you utilize this approach. That's because there's more than one sale that occurs on the webinar. The second sale, even more important, is you, the person. After the webinar is over, would they be less or more excited to hear from you again? And the answer has to be more. That's what we have to satisfy. Tell me, does this phrase ring a bell to you, providing value? A lot of people say this, providing value, but what does it even mean? Here's my definition. I'd love to share this with you. Providing value is, to me, the ability for the attendee to learn and gain insight in a way that automatically results in a positive change in their behavior. Keyword, behavior. If they don't change their behavior as a result of being on your webinar, you have not served them. You have not, quote unquote, provided value in that situation. So if the real question then becomes, how do I create a positive change in behavior as a result of what I teach them and what I show them in the content portion of my webinar? Here's what value is on webinars. If they were scared before and now they're confident, that's value. If they had inner shame and you replaced it with inner love, that's value. If they felt hopeless and you gave them hope, that, my friend, is extreme value. That's what we have to accomplish with the content. So content done right is this. You say less, but have a greater impact. You meet them where they're at so you can take them to where they need to go. You take them from where there was no hope. Now hope exists. Because it's not just what they need to do. It's what they need to do right now and how they feel about what to do right now. One of the first people that I ever listened to that totally changed my thinking was a gentleman named Jim Rohn. And he says, it's not just what you know, it's how you feel about what you know. And I took that to heart. That is real value. And that's how we design it when we give our webinars. Here is the value providing process. 3 parts to it. First, state a clearly defined outcome. Second, create a step-by-step process for achieving it. Third, provide content, vision, strategy, and commitment for each step. So let's talk about what a defined outcome is first. Here's my defined outcome for this very webinar. To show anyone how to add webinars to their business in a way that is easy, enjoyable, and has an immediate impact on their bottom line, regardless of whether it's their first webinar or their next. So before I ever do a single slide on this webinar, I define my outcome of what I want to happen behaviorally to you, and that's where the content comes from. Now, by the way, more often than not, I recommend you share your defined outcome with your audience because fuzzy targets don't get hit. Now, once you have your defined outcome, what do you do next? You break it down into a step-by-step process. So for me, on this webinar, it's step 1, here's what you do in the introduction. Step 2, here's what you do in the content portion. Step 3, in the transition. And step 4, in the pitch section. So we define the outcome. We break it down in the step-by-step process. What's left? There's only one thing left, and that's provide contents, vision, and commitment and strategy for each of these steps. So for example, step 1 on our webinar here today is the introduction. My context I gave you for this is you only get one chance to make a first impression. That's why it's important, right? The vision that I painted for you of what a great introduction looks like right here. I accomplished this, right? I said it seizes the attention. It communicates something special about to happen. Strategy. What did I give for strategy? I showed you 5 components of an introduction, and then we broke down one component specifically through authority. Commitment. I asked you questions like, do you think this increases the number of people who show up to your webinars? Do you also think that it makes them more committed from the get-go? And will that lead to more sales? I even point blank asked you, do you feel like if you don't help somebody, and you could, aren't you actively participating in their despair? That is commitment. We're getting you to commit to a new idea. This is what you do for each of the steps in your webinar process. For each step, you repeat this. Context, that should say. Pardon me that little typo there. Context, vision, strategy, commitment. So if you have 4 steps, I have 4 times I provide content, a little bit of content for each step, the vision for each step, the strategy for each step, sorry, the context again, that's messing me up, right? And then the commitment, making sure people are on board with you. And this is all you have to do in your content section. The content section is the easiest section of all when it comes to webinars. A lot of people think it's the hardest, not when you have a formula for it. And you say, Jason, can you use this over and over again? Yes! I've used this formula for 60 different webinars that have been successful, but it's the same exact formula. Just for each topic, the details vary a little bit. Now, what are some additional best practices? You don't have to follow any of these, by the way. Just do what I just taught you. But these are some easy wins that you can provide to yourself when you create your next webinar. First one is provide your audience with a roadmap. How do you know where to go if you can't see it? Everything needs to know this is what came before it and this is what came after it. You provide that service for your audience. It makes what you're teaching infinitely more impactful. Also, do a check on emotion. When you're teaching something, you say, what emotional state am I creating? Because the state of emotion is far more important than the actual thing that you're teaching. And then over time, improve your webinar. A webinar is a malleable thing that can continually be optimized. So the first time we did this webinar, I did 1.7 million in billable sales. The second time we did this webinar, less than a year later, I did 2.6 million in billable sales. I actually did over 3 million when it was all said and done. Would you agree that not only will this help your content have impact, but isn't it easier to create content when you can do so within a framework? It's easier and it's better. It's easier and it's more effective. Question: when presented with a better and easier way, do you keep doing what you've been doing or do you change your approach? This is my commitment that I'm asking you. Do you go to the old way or do you say, I'm going to adopt this new way and start thinking in terms of this new way? And the answer is you better if you want to survive, right? So far we've discussed introduction in content within this framework. Now, by the way, Mike just sent me this as a text message. He says, 22%, your framework is kick-ass, brother. And we're only halfway through it. Imagine that. We got the other half to cover. So we've discussed so far introduction and content. What's next? The transition. We're going to transition from I'm educating you to I'm making you an offer to invest in yourself. Here's the reality. The reality is successful webinars start selling the moment the first word is spoken and the first slide is shown. There is no difference between the slide number 1 and slide 101. They're all related to the sale. Only in your mind is there actually a difference between quote-unquote content and so-called pitching. As such, the transition serves to put you automatically in a state of mind where people are most receptive and eager to hear about what you have to offer. This is a selfish section, the transition is. It's a trick so you can put yourself in a state of mind where you can deliver with the most impact. I can tell you just by looking at an audio of most people's webinar where they start pitching. Right here, for example. Notice the difference in tonality. They were comfortable talking about and educating during the content, and they got uncomfortable when they started selling, and they were like a different person. Nothing will cause you to lose sales quicker than that, because if you're uncomfortable selling, they'll be uncomfortable buying. Here's how you fix that. The best transition, get your audience to feel like you're doing a favor by giving them the opportunity to invest in what you're offering to them. That's the goal of the transition. You nail the transition, and they will be begging you for the chance to spend money with you. Would you believe I have a formula for the transition? Of course, right? Once you do it as long as I do it, you make things turnkey. There's 3 elements, step by step, you have to follow for the transition. 60-second recap, yes momentum, 2 choices. If there is anything that you can just straight copy from this webinar and drop in to a presentation, it's this. Okay, so pay careful attention. First thing we do is a 60-second recap. If I went 60 minutes on a webinar, I want to redo that 60 minutes at the end before we go into the sales portion of it in 60 seconds or less. What we do here is we condense the most powerful insights into a series of bullet points that you fire off in rapid succession to dramatically show the amount of value you provided. For example, in my transition that I would do for a webinar like this, I would say, today so far we discussed a webinar framework that has been tested and perfected across 9 figures worth of sales. We also went over a magic trip that helped us generate $1.4 million the first time that we implemented it in 75 minutes or less. I also showed you how to make your webinar sell better in the first 5 minutes than most people do, and over their whole webinar. Today, so on and so on, right? I would condense whatever portion of my content I had covered up until that point into rapid fire, slide by slide. What do you think happens when you do that? You build on the momentum. First of all, you remind them of what they've taught, because a lot of people forget 90% of stuff the first time they hear it. And now you can remind them of all the value that you've given them, and remind yourself, whoa, I did a lot of this stuff? Wow, that was incredible. And now you're feeling good about continuing the conversation with them. So step number 1 in the transition is a 60-second recap. What's next? Yes momentum. Smaller yeses lead to bigger yeses. The biggest yes, of course, is yes, I will invest in your offer. In your transition, what you want to do is fire off a series of yes questions, one after the other. So here's some examples. Was our time together thus far enjoyable for you? Yes. Have you also found it to be valuable? Yes. Do you now feel more comfortable with your ability to make money with your webinars? Yes. Have you come up with some good ideas you already feel excited about implementing in your business? Yes. And is it fair to say using these techniques will give you a significant advantage over your competition? Yes, yes, yes. So we do the 60-second recap. We get them in a state of saying yes to being open and receptive. And then to cap off the transition, we use the 2 choices close. Now let me give you the context of the 2 choices close. There was a study done across a group of different doctors, and they divided it into 2 different groups. First group, this is what they said. They said, how likely would you recommend a surgery that had a 90% survival rate? And these doctors said, yeah. Most of them said, I'd have no problem offering a surgery and recommending it if it had a 90% survival rate. They took the second group of doctors. The only difference was they asked them the question this way. They said, how likely are you to recommend a surgery to a patient that has a 10% fatality rate? And now a majority of them say, I wouldn't do that. Huh. Interesting. You can get completely different responses to the same exact information, all depending on how you present it. And that's why I have painstakingly worked every single word of the 2 choices close to make sure people understand exactly with the best impact the information we have available. How do you set up your offer so your audience is most receptive to hearing and responding to it? Just use this script. You can use this pretty much word for word. I've used this more than any other thing that I've ever used in the transition. It goes like this. Would you like to hear it? Well, here's the two choices close. I have absolute confidence that you could take everything we covered here today and on your own go out and put it into action and get results that you previously thought were not possible. And I'm also certain that just with the information we've covered on this webinar today, left on your own with your own resources, devices, and time and effort, you can make a go at this in a way that most people will never be able to. And if that were your only option, it would be a worthy ideal to pursue. But what if there was another option? An option that allowed us to go at this together. A chance to go deeper than we can in one measly hour on one measly webinar, connecting together one measly time. What if I played an active role in your results, took a responsibility in your success, and had an obligation to your outcome? How would that make things different? If I had such an option for you, would you love to hear more about it and what it can do for you? That's why it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you whatever you're offering them. Product, service, coaching program, software, next step, doesn't matter. That's why it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you Genius Webinars, whatever the name of your product or service that you're offering there. Question to you. Do you think using a transition like this would make you more comfortable presenting your offer? Now you realize I'm doing a noble service indeed of going at it with them as opposed to on their own. Not only are you reminding the audience of what you're doing, you're reminding yourself. Because otherwise you think, oh no, I'm selling something to somebody. That is selfish. Say I'm serving somebody. And everything that we just did in that script, the two choices close, exactly reminds you both and puts you both on the same page, you and your audience. Okay, let me take a look at what you have to offer. That's where their head's going to be at. And don't you think that that's going to help you tremendously feel good about providing what you have for them to invest in, okay? You think it'd make it more eager for them to buy from you? Of course. And isn't it safe to say that most webinars don't utilize powerful transitions like that? They don't have any transition. And that's a travesty because it's mostly fill in the blanks, isn't it? But you don't know what you don't know. Huh. All right, what do we got left? We talked about the introduction, starting with impact. Talked about content, creating an actual behavior change. Transition, putting people in the most receptive situation to say yes if it serves them. What do we got left? The close, the pitch, right? This is step number 4. Now, when it comes to a webinar, the close section is the least important part that you need to master. Now, I know this is the exact opposite of what everybody thinks and what everybody says and what everybody teaches, but I have $100 million in sales over the last few years that run that counter. When it comes to a webinar, the close section is the least important part. The least important part to your success and the least important part for you to have to master. Why? Why? Because a better introduction will naturally lead to a better close. Simply because you're putting them in a state of mind from the very beginning to be most receptive to your offer. Content in the content section that creates transformational emotional states will elevate the consciousness of your audience, empowering them to make the decisions that are best for them, which may include investing in themselves with what you have to offer. And a transition that positions your offer to be a gift from the heavens, the perfect thing to help empower them to achieve what they deeply desire, makes them beg to see your offer. And then the close, my friend, is mostly just a matter of technique. Would you like to see the technique? It looks like this. We present the main part of the offer. We reveal the price. We ask for the order. We stack the bonuses. We reverse the risk with guarantee. We cover through the objections, and we sprinkle scarcity throughout to help them compel and make a decision right here, right now. That's it. Let's break down each part. Offer. Here's the thing to remember. You buy the drill for the hole. You don't buy the drill for the drill. You buy the drill for the hole. What they get are features, not benefits, not solutions, not outcomes. And features don't sell. Now, people need to know the features. They need to know what they get to justify their investment, but it's the least important part of the close. And as such, we go through it as quickly as we possibly can. So whatever you're offering on your webinar, here's what you do. Product name and tagline, one-sentence benefit statement, highlight 2 to 4 major components. That's it. Let me give you some examples. So for example, with Genius Webinars, the tagline, product name is Genius Webinars, right? Tagline is Secrets of $100 Million in Webinar Sales. What's the benefit statement? Once I reveal Genius Webinars, first thing I do is here's the tagline, and then I say this: a step-by-step approach for crafting webinars that outsell your competition, provide more value to your customers, and are easier, quicker, and more enjoyable to create than you thought even possible. So literally introducing this offer goes offer name, tagline, one-sentence benefit segment. You with me so far? There's not a lot to this here. It goes by pretty quickly. And then we would highlight the major components that make up that core offer. Here's the process. Headline, 3 benefits, proof to validate it, future pace, what life's going to be like once they have their hands on it. So let me give you an example. When we offered the Genius Webinar training, it was a 2-day in-person training. There's your headline. Here's your benefits. Benefit number 1, a full sense experience of how to do webinars. Benefit number 2, session structures to turn ideas into implementation almost in real time. Benefit number 3, surrounding yourself by the best of the best, right? That's it. 1 slide to break down that component of the offer. Headline, 3 benefits. The next slide was the proof element. So I could play like this testimonial video from Russell Brunson, co-founder of ClickFunnels, and show them, hey, my name is Russell Brunson. I wanted to make a real quick video of my friends and mentors, Jason Fladlien, and go on and say, wow, I want to learn from this guy because other people who are important, successful, have learned from this guy. And then lastly, future pace. Upon completion, anytime a great opportunity presents itself where you know a webinar is just the thing for it, you leap into action with a newfound sense of confidence, knowing full well your promotions have more oomph, more value, and more impact on your bottom line and the world around you. That's the first core component of the offer. Literally, it's headline, 3 benefits, proof element, future pace. 3 slides. So if you have 3 core components of your offer, you have 9 total slides. How long should it take you to go through these? 3 minutes or less. Now this is the thing that everybody does wrong. You do this thing one thing differently and you will crush them all because they'll spend 55 minutes explaining every little thing you get. It's not important. Just a couple things. Then you repeat this for each component. So 2 components, you have 2 sets of headline, benefit, proof element, future pace. Do that twice. If you have 3 components, you do it 3 times. Our goal is 3 minutes or less, maybe 5 minutes if you have a really enticing kind of thing going on here. That's the offer. After you show them what they get, now you have to show them what the price is to get it. Now here's the thing to understand about price. Money on its own is virtually useless. You could burn it for heat or you could maybe wear it if you're cold, right? But money is more about what you can get in exchange. That's what matters. In other words, the more obvious you make it that there's a massive value for minimum price, the more money you'll make, period. So here's a sweet spot, making them feel like they're taking advantage of you, making them feel almost bad because they feel like they're getting such a better deal. They're getting the better end of the deal than you, making them feel like they're taking advantage because of how much value they feel they're getting versus what they're paying. So the specific technique on how we do this is this, okay? First thing you do is you link your offer to an absurd price. I say webinars have generated for me in 1 session over $10 million in sales. So now we've linked the value of the offer to $10 million. Then we drop it. We say in the right hands, people like John Carter's, it's worth $1 million or more. Then we drop it again. This type of cutting edge strategy, many entrepreneurs and thought leaders spend $100,000 just to get access to. So I went from $10 million to $1 million to $100,000. Drop it one more time. Recently, we had a sold-out room of people all around the world who put in $4,995 to learn these webinar secrets step by step and then reveal the actual investment. However, if you act fast enough, you can get in at a special one-time investment of whatever it is when you go to example.com, whatever your URL is that they can go to sign up. That's how you do price. Price is always relative. You link it to things of similar nature that are higher, actually established value, drop it again, drop it one more time, then reveal the actual one, first call to action. When you start selling in the close section, you should not be longer than 5 minutes out before you make them the first opportunity where they can go to sign up. Now, most people don't do that. They wait 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 50 minutes, but you can't torture somebody into buying. We want them to know right away. Linking price, so this is the core components, linking price to features. Because we're about to do something that is so powerful that's going to tip the deck in your favor of communication, of them understanding what you truly have for them. But this is important to understand. We've gotten our first call to action in super duper quickly, so now we can go back and immediately stack value. We reveal price, and then we go back to add value. That's why after we have our offer and price, the next thing we do is we move to bonuses. Bonuses are more important than the offer itself when it comes to conversion on webinars. So here's the price to bonus transition. Best of all, by signing up right away, you're going to get your hands on some extra special bonuses when you go to example.com. So we reveal the price and we immediately go back to value. Here's the bonus presentation formula. Headline, benefits, proof, feature pace. Look familiar? It's the exact same thing that we do with the core components of the offer, but with one little extra thing. We just have to connect the bonus to the core offer. This is why we're including this as a bonus. We have to have just that little bit of context to bridge the gap. Now, we'll spend a little bit more time on each bonus than we would on a core component, but the thing is, it doesn't matter because the bonuses are infinitely more valuable to somebody to get them to say yes. So let me give you an example to make this really clear for you. The ultimate webinar funnels, bonus number 1. So when you sign up and say yes today to Genius Webinars, the first bonus you're going to get your hands on is the ultimate webinar funnel. Webinar success is more important than just the presentation. It's the registration page, the thank you page, the order page, and the replay page. When used right, you can double or even triple your webinar profits. Would you like me to give you the best fill-in-the-blank funnel I've ever used? Over $100 million in sales. That's the context portion. That's the only thing that we have to precede this bonus, and then it's 3 benefits, it's the future pace, it's a proof element if you have it. You don't even necessarily have to use proof at this point. Insight. Is it likely you'll spend more time going over the bonuses than you did going over the core offer? Yes, by design. That is the difference between exceptional webinars and webinars. And then all you have to do is go through the guarantee, handle the objections, and make sure scarcity is obvious there because people need a reason to say yes immediately. It's a lot so far we've covered, isn't it? And it's only been, heck, I don't even think it's been an hour yet. No. Time out. Let's reset. Let's breathe for a second. I don't know if you know I'm a part-time yoga instructor. There I am with my 3 kids. It's a lot to take in 50 minutes, right? Relax. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be able to do all this at once. You're not going to be able to do half of it or even a quarter of it. Okay? We've covered the synthesis of like 10 years worth of perfection and $100 million worth of sales in a very short amount of time. Now, in a short amount of time today, I've condensed, cram-packed, and squeezed together as tightly as possible a whole process for webinar domination. Now, here's the reality. Even if you only use just a tiny fraction of what we cover today, don't you feel like you've taken a giant leap forward with your marketing? Now, I don't know what you knew about webinars coming into the call today, but it'd be a safe bet that some or all of what we covered today was new and valuable to you, wasn't it? Stuff such as the $100 million framework, how to create more buyers in the intro than most people do during the pitch, a content formula so powerful you'll find it useful in all other areas of your business, not just for webinars, my killer close routine that you can easily drop into any webinar to bring in more money than any of us deserve. The value-providing process of stating a clearly defined outcome, creating step-by-step process for it, and then providing context, vision, strategy, and commitment for each step, plus checking emotional states for the content you're creating, utilizing a powerful transition formula, 60-second recap, yes, momentum, 2 choices, a magic trick that I used that resulted in 2.6 in billable revenue, that's $2.6 million, all that, and much, 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 much more. Question to you, do you feel our time on the webinar thus far has been well spent? And now do you feel more confident and compelled with using webinars? And can you see how even just a little bit of this stuff, just 1 or 2 things I showed you today, can help you in your business, regardless of whether you use it in webinars or use it somewhere else? And are you excited to make a go out of this, to see what wonderful things it will open up for you in your life. Enter Genius Webinar. Now, on October 12th and 13th of 2017, Joe Polish and I had 63 people who invested $4,995 apiece to come down to his office, the Genius Network headquarters, and learn step-by-step my exact system in detail for webinars. That has resulted in $100 million in sales. And we put his full video crew, his $250,000 worth of video equipment with the multi-cameras, the pickups, the audio, all that fancy schmancy TriCaster production to capture this whole event. As a result, we have a fully documented system for Genius Webinars for each and every single one of these parts. So for example, session 1, overview, 17 minutes and 41 seconds. I get you in the right state of mind to understand and utilize each one of these components in your webinar. Session number 2, we break down the offer, price, and bonuses section of the close with specific examples. In 1 hour and 21 minutes, we go in and out of all of this technique so you can just drop it into your business. Session number 3, guarantee, scarcity, and objections. I'll show you all the techniques, all the ways to use scarcity effectively, the exact 4-step formula for handling objections, powerful guarantees, because a right guarantee can do more for your webinars than anything else can do. Session number 4, defined outcome and step-by-step, exactly how to create your defined outcome and to break it down to a step-by-step process. Session number 5, utilizing context and vision for each one of your steps. Session number 6, how to utilize strategy to teach each step and get commitment so people are actually committed to change as a result of your webinar. Session number 7, the transition. We break down, again, in very, very minute detail, the 60-second recap, the yes momentum situation, and the 2 choices. Session number 8, authority, how to build authority, utilizing results and positioning, celebrity, and testimonials. We give you the exact step-by-step process of how to do that. Session number 9, we cover commitment, hope, objections, and intrigue. Session number 10, I showed you how to put it all together. So this is how I start writing the webinar. This is how I adjust it. Here's what I do here. Here's how I literally take this thing and make it an end actual webinar that I can put in front of somebody and they can say yes to. And then session number 11, we actually break down members and optimize from start to finish these elements for this webinar so you can see it firsthand. Would you like to get your hands on all these sessions? Well, it gets better. In addition to the full-on training, you also get the PDF version of the workbook that accomplished each session, so you can implement and profit in a snap. Because this is a workshop training. This isn't just we're going to have fun and sing Kumbaya by the fire kind of thing. You literally get every single thing that I've created to make this step-by-step in print. So you say, okay, I need to make sure, did I get the authority? Did I get commitment? Did I handle objections? In the webinar content section, did I come up with a defined outcome? Break it down step by step, create a visual roadmap. You just follow this. This supplements your training. We actually have fill in the blanks that you will jot your ideas from. So when it's done, you just puzzle piece it together. There has been no more effective method I've ever taught or seen taught that can go from idea to implementation than this. Plus, I had 210 slides for the 2-day training that we did on each of these sessions. You get that as well for reference and easy to follow along with the videos. Genius Webinars. Now, companies have paid me millions in royalties for webinars that I have consulted on and helped create. We've had customers like John Carter and many more make millions with this webinar process already in its infancy. And we sold out the conference and had to churn people away for the initial thing that created this Genius Webinars training for $4,995. And now it's instantly available for you to download and profit from immediately for not $4,995, but if you act fast enough, just $14.97 for a limited time. And best of all, while this limited special offer is available, when you sign up, you also get the following special bonuses for free if you act fast enough. Bonus number 1, immediate webinar profits. If you're in a situation where you need a webinar done as fast as humanly possible, you're going to love this bonus. It breaks down the 80-20 of pitch webinars, and it's the easiest way to start making money fast. So if you say, Jason, I don't want to be an expert right now, I just want to get started, I want to do the simplest thing that can make me money by next week, Go to this bonus immediately when you sign up right now for the limited time that this is available. In addition to getting the immediate webinar profits bonus, bonus number 2, the ultimate webinar funnel. See, every major webinar has the following pages: the registration page, the thank you page, the webinar itself, the sign-up page, and the replay page. And here's a tale of 2 webinars selling the exact same product with the exact same conversion rate, with the exact same amount of traffic, exact same everything, except for one of them didn't have a replay page. One of them didn't have an optimized registration page. And the difference can be between $62,000 and $250,000. So bonus number 2, the ultimate webinar funnel. I'm going to give you the fill in the blank, the plug and the play templates. You can just drop in the perfect webinar funnel into your promotions in seconds. And I also have a full-on video training walking you through the ins and outs of this is why we do our registration page like this. This is why you want your thank you page to look like this. This is why your landing page needs to do this. In fact, there are 2 major secret weapons I use in my funnels that I'm not going to disclose here, but you will get them and understand immediately how insanely powerful they are for your business. Now, this is interesting. Jimmy Harding was one of the gentlemen who joined us at the conference, put $49.95 down, and this is what he said. He said, Jason had made a webinar page. He gave it to us in ClickFunnels. I used that, and I immediately increased my registration rate by 10%. And then Jimmy said this is worth to him several $1 million just to be able to do that. So not only are you going to get the full-on training, bonus number 1, you're going to get the immediate webinar profits. Bonus number 2, you're going to get the ultimate webinar funnel. Bonus number 3, I call this slide envy. Now, when done right, a keynote or a PowerPoint slideshow will outconvert any other approach on a webinar any day of the week. Forget the fancy schmancy full motion videos, you direct on camera. Forget any of that other stuff. A keynote or a PowerPoint, give that to me. I will outsell anybody on the same topic. It is the most effective thing to use when you're selling. Now I'm going to show you exactly how to, in record time, design and lay out your slides to maximize your selling message from introduction to close. Not only just look cute or pretty, we're not in that, but to make it even more effective when it comes to conversion. So in addition to the immediate webinar profits training, the ultimate webinar funnel, plug and play templates, plus that training that surrounds it, the slide envy training for laying out your webinars, bonus number 4, webinar swipes. Want to see me in action with my most profitable webinar ever? I've archived my best webinar for you that's generated over $30 million in sales in the last 4 years. You get the example emails that lead up to the webinar, that follow the webinar for the replay, so you can model and use those in your exact webinar promotions and follow our time-tested, perfected sequence for promoting a webinar. Webinar order forms. So I'm going to talk to you about what we put on webinar order forms and sales pages specifically to also help maximize webinars. So in addition to that bonus, the immediate webinar profits bonus, the ultimate webinar funnel bonus, and the slide envy bonus, what else do I have for you? Well, I have this one. It's called Pure Webinars Training. It's a massive training in its own right, but for you specifically, I will tell you the biggest benefit is there is no place where I have more deeply and intently broken down the thought process behind actual, real, live, successful webinars that I've done. There are several 6-, 7-, and 8-figure webinar pitches in there that are dissected for you. So I said, this is why I did this over here. This is what this was doing over here. This isn't theoretical. These are real-world webinars that you get to understand the backstory to. And this will help you tremendously with your webinars. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's included in the Pure Webinars bonus here. It includes MP4s, MP3s, PDFs, and transcripts as well to this training. In addition to the immediate webinar profits, the ultimate webinar funnel, the slide envy bonus, the webinar swipes, the Pure Webinars bonus, bonus number 6, I'm going to give you webinar pitch secrets 1 and 2. These 2 little manuals that I wrote up have more word-for-word closes that you can just copy and drop in than any other training in existence on the internet when it comes to selling via webinars. If you ever wanted to just copy specific time-tested, word-for-word proven closes, you'll love this. And I've created these so they're universal. You can put them into practically any product, any niche, any service, any coaching program out there, all contained in these 2 little manuals here. In addition to Webinar Pitch Secrets 1 and 2, the immediate webinar profits training, the ultimate webinar funnel templates and the training, the slide envy bonus, the webinar swipes from start to finish of webinars promotions, the Pure Webinar where I break down specific examples, and the close manuals here, bonus number 7, GOTOWEBINAR Mastery. How do you set up your webinars? How do you customize it? How do you manage them? How do you get the most out of them? What type of webinar emails? What settings should you use? What about creating polls and surveys? When and how do you do that? What about creating replays? I had my team, because we ran hundreds and hundreds, probably over 1,000 webinars with my team, create a series of SOPs, screenshotted in thorough detail with numbers next to them and arrows and all that kind of stuff, breaking down exactly how to do everything important for your webinars from a tech perspective to make your webinars super duper successful and super duper easy. With this training, you can tame the tech in a minute and focus then on the most important thing, which is creating and selling of your webinars. And you can get in for just $14.97. This isn't something we make available, and it's very possible, if you delay too long, that you're going to see this. When you go to that page and that countdown timer hits 0, it's rigged up so it automatically closes the deal and then forwards it to this page. We do not make this available very often for a very specific reason why. I want to make sure that I am deliberate on when people are joining this program so we can make sure we serve them with the best amount of help as possible. If that page is available, if that register here button on that page is there, smash it and get signed up, fill out that form right away, because when it hits 0, it's going to go to this. And when you sign up, here's my guarantee to you. I know this to be true, that if you run a webinar in the next 30 days following my formula, just even a tiny bit of my formula, and you don't see a massive improvement that's worth a significant amount more than your investment today for $14.97, then here's what you do. Just contact our support@rapidcrush.com, just write us an email, and give us a link to your webinar that you ran and tell us your results. That's it. Then we'll say, I want my money back. We say, okay, no problem. Promptly and quietly, we'll return every penny of your investment back to you. We only want to keep you as a customer if you make far, far, far more in a very short period of time with a very short amount of effort. Far more in revenue than what you invest in here today. That's my guarantee to you. There is no risk. There's only reward. If you really want to know if webinars are right for you to use, here's the checklist. First one. Do you feel a moral and ethical responsibility to get your solution into the hands of as many people as possible? Yes? You need this. Second, do you feel a more educated prospect would have an easier time saying yes and getting more out of the solution that you can provide? Do you feel like education would enhance that? Yes, then this is for you. This is a no-brainer. Do you suppose it's a smart idea to use multiple different vehicles of marketing in your business? Now, the webinar is not the only thing I use. It's not the only thing anybody should use. But doesn't it make sense that the more effective communication strategies you have, the more effective persuasion and conversion strategies you have, the more money you'll make? For sure. And this is the most important question on the checklist. Does your heart gravitate you towards this? And I already know the answer. The answer is yes, otherwise you wouldn't be here watching this right now and listening to this and seeing this. So let's make the leap together. Sign up now. It's instantly available for you. You can download from it and profit from it just like that, and not for $49.95. That's the normal price. For a one-time investment of $14.97, although it's for a limited time, when that countdown timer on that page hits 0, then it's gone for you. Gone forever, right? And here's the beautiful thing. You could take this, you could download this today, and you could be in a position to make money from this tomorrow. Is that hype, Jason? Absolutely not. I speak from experience, seeing customers do exactly just that. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to find one of these green buttons that says register here. You're going to click on it or tap on it, depending on whatever device you're on. It's going to take you to our terms and conditions page. To proceed, you just agree to the terms and services, and then fill out the form, and now immediately get transferred into the members area where you can start downloading, consuming, and benefiting from Genius webinars for just $14.97 for a limited time. This is everything you get. You get the full training, the 11 high-definition professional recorded videos, professionally edited videos covering each and every portion thoroughly and specifically of my Genius webinar process. You get the webinar builder workbook, as we call it, so you can fill in the blanks. This is where, you know, Jason taught me 5 ways to get commitment. I fill in the blanks. This is how I'm going to get commitment on my webinar. Jason asked me what my 4-step process is or 3-step process is. He showed me how to come up with it. This is what the actual 3-step process is. This is designed for you to use it, not to read it and think it's nice and neat. No, that's interesting, right? This is designed with one purpose and one purpose only, to reduce the amount of time of you thinking to it showing up in your business to absolute 0. to as little as time as humanly possible. You get the exact, what we call the $5,000 placemat, where it shows you the slide of every element and every section of the webinar. You get all 210 slides of the training too, so you can follow around or reference it whenever you need to. It's the most turnkey approach from learning and having it show up as a result in your business that you'll probably ever encounter. You get that plus all these incredible bonuses. Bonus number 1 is actually the fast profit bonus. Bonus number 2 is the ultimate webinar funnel, so you can drop that in. Bonus number 3 is this how you lay out your slides. Bonus number 4, these are exact swipes you can model that we've used and perfected that you can just basically rip off from us and implement and plant into your business. Bonus number 5, pure webinars. These are actual webinars dissected of mine, so you can see it in the real world, not in the theoretical lab. Bonus number 6, webinar pitch secrets 1 and 2, those manuals that have more word-for-word closes that you can copy and use in your universal ones than really anything else that exists out there, plus all the tech is figured out for you. $14.97 for a limited time, because as soon as that countdown time hits 0, we say it's offline. When it comes back online, and I don't know when that'll be, sometimes it's many, many months in between when these things happen. Don't let this happen to you, because every single day that you're not using this is a day that it costs you twice. The first way it costs you is you don't make any money that you deserve to make. The second way it costs you is somebody else is using it, and they're winning, and they're surging ahead, and you're not. I know what I can do for you, and I know what this can do for you. And it breaks my heart that some people aren't going to see the value in it and understand the benefit from it, and years are going to go by and they're going to still have the same problems that I know that this can solve, right? So if I had the chance and the runway, I'd stay with you for hours here today for your benefit, to help you understand the value. I cannot do that, but I can offer you this. If you have any question that's important to helping you decide before the timer runs out if you should do this or not, here's what I want you to do. I want you to email us at support@rapidcrush.com. support@rapidcrush.com, and put your question there. But do it quickly if that's what it's going to take for you to get involved with this. Act fast. I look forward to seeing your results, to helping you, to sharing with you these things that have built many, many fortunes and will continue to do so in the future. My name is Jason Fladlien. I appreciate you, and I know you deserve to be wealthy. Let me help you do it. Let me help you get there, and we'll be speaking again soon.